challenge that I did in my sixth grade ELA class with my students. The title of this STEAM challenge is Towers of Evidence. And our question was, who can create the tallest and most stable tower of evidence? So before this challenge, we read a passage entitled The Grizzly Crawl about a man who survived alone in the wilderness for many weeks. This passage went along with our unit on how we can adapt to our surroundings in order to survive, as well as our book we have been reading, Hatchet. After we read and discussed the passage, um, the students were given a question where they had to make an inference about the character in the story. The classes all kind of had different inferences. One was he was brave, one he was a survivalist, and another one he was tough. Once each group had their inference, um, they had to kind of go through the passage and find as much evidence as possible to support that inference. Once they had their evidence, they were given a graphic organizer to kind of organize their thoughts and draw out a plan of what they wanted their tower to look like and have a list of the materials that they were going to receive so they could kind of get an idea of how they wanted to build that or what they thought would work. Once they completed their graphic organizer, then they were given materials. I don't give out materials for a STEAM challenge until they have completed steps 1, 2, and 3 of that graphic organizer, which I'm going to show you in a moment. So before they could actually start building the tower, they had to write a piece of evidence on each piece of their material. So they were given cardboard, construction paper, styrofoam cups, a paper clip, and some pipe cleaners. So once they wrote down every piece of evidence that they thought went along with their inference, they could begin building their tower. And some of them found out it wasn't quite as easy as it sounded to put that together and actually make it stable and stand on its own. I always have a timer going for my students, sometimes with music. I just always like to do that. It keeps me on track, it helps to keep them on track as well. So I'm going to show you the guideline paper each group gets. This just tells you the parts. Um, it also lets them kind of get an idea of the overall theme of what they're supposed to do and what they should be able to accomplish. This is the graphic organizer that they have to complete step 1, 2, and 3 before I give them materials. That way I know they're ready to actually start the building process. These are some pictures of students trying to put that together. Um, as you can see, some of them had some different ideas on how they wanted it to look. Now, once they were finished building their tower, then I would go around and make sure that their evidence matched the inference they had made. So they had written those things, their evidence on each um, piece of their tower. And if their evidence didn't match, they knew that they would lose that piece of evidence regardless of where it was located on their tower. So they got really excited when they found out they weren't going to lose any pieces of their evidence. And then lastly, once everyone was finished, we lined them up and determined who was taller and how they were able to make it taller, and the groups that one would share out and kind of tell, well, we use the paper clips this way, or you could have done this. So it was a fun experience for students, and they always get really excited when we do STEAM. And then lastly, I always try to have a timer and some time set aside to clean up and kind of get the room back in order for the next class.